Hello, friends, and welcome back to another lesson. I am so happy to see you. So, today we are going to continue with our literary elements that we began a little while ago. Yes, we have done characters. I believe we have done setting. And today we are going to concentrate on the problem or conflict in the story. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin by reading our clear learning target. I can identify the conflict in a story. How about we read it together? Let's go. I can identify this conflict in a story. Very good. Excellent. So we're just going to touch a couple of things, okay, before we actually begin doing our modeling. Okay. So first, what is a problem or conflict in a story, right? Well, a problem in a story is something that needs to be solved or worked out. That's right. So, something that the characters are facing and they need to work out before the end of the story. Okay. Now, some stories, the problem is not necessarily solved, but most the problem is already solved. Okay. Okay. So remember that the problem, or not remember, but just want to bring your attention that the problem is usually found near the beginning of the story. Okay, so right on the introduction, the first chapter, you are going to find the problem of a story. Okay, so always look for that within the first two paragraphs if it's a short story, or the first chapter or couple of pages if it's a chapter story. Okay. Okay, so another thing that we need to know is how to find it, right? So we have to read the story. There's no way you can find the conflict if you don't read the story, right? Okay, so that is the first thing that we need to do. The second thing is we need to identify the characters in the story. Remember, the characters is whoever is talking or thinking aloud. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago we did Garfield and John. Garfield is a cat, right? So he doesn't really talk, but he is thinking, right? So whoever is communicating in the story, that those are characters, okay? Do also remember that we have different types of characters or degree of characters, okay? But we're not going to review that right now. Another thing that we need to know, find out, is what is the setting, okay? So remember, the setting is the where, if it's a place, or a when, if it has to do with time. And yes, long time ago, once upon a time, all of those are part of the setting as well, because that is a time frame, okay? Okay. So another thing that we need to remember now look at is that what is happening, okay, in the story. We need to know the events of the story in order to be able to identify the problem in the story. Stories usually have different problems, but there is one main problem, okay? There's always one main problem, and the problem is something that needs to be solved or worked out. Remember that, okay? Okay, so that brings us to our practice time together. Yes, so the first story we're going to do together, and then the second one is going to do for you to practice alone, and then, of course, upload it for us, your teacher, or myself to look at, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the story. For us to accomplish our goal, we are going to read a story together. Now, look at this illustration that I have in front of you and tell me, what do you think is the story about? Okay, well, if you said it's about a dog, you're totally correct. How about the other character? Huh, yes, some of you are saying that it is a wolf, and some of you are saying that it's a second dog, and it looks like a dog, but it is actually a wolf. So, based on the fact that we have a dog and a wolf, would you say is the title of the story? Let's just make a prediction about the title, okay? Okay, very good, very good. Well, I'm going to tell you that this story is going to be, or the title is, The Wolf and the House Dog. That's right. And this, my friends, is a fable. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin reading our fable, okay? So there was once a wolf who got very little to eat because the dogs of the village were so wide awake and watchful. He was really nothing but skin and bones, and it made him very downhearted to think of it. Okay, so now we need to remember that in order for us to identify the problem, which is what we are working on today, we first need to identify the characters, which we already did, right? So the characters are, yes, who is in the story? And in the story we have the dog and the wolf. So those are the two characters of the story. Now, what do you think is the setting of the story? Okay, so yes, some of you caught up on that. Yes, it is right there on the first line, and it says a village, right? Yes, a village is just like a town. Okay, now, do you see any houses on our illustration? No, no houses. That's right. So it's probably outside the village. So let's go back a little bit and let's remember that in order for us to identify the problem, we need to know the characters and we need to know the setting because the setting affects the characters. Do you remember that? Yes, and it also affects the problem. Okay, so right here, remember that I said before that the problem is found at the beginning of the story. I also said that there are different problems in the story, right? But in this case, the main problem is actually found at the beginning, right there on the very first paragraph. What is the problem? Okay, a little bit difficult, right? But let's go ahead and read this line over here again. And it says, he was really nothing but skin and bones, and it made him very downhearted to think of it, right? And it says that he had got very little to eat, right? So the problem, some of you probably already got into it, okay? But since we're doing this one together, I'm going to let you know that the problem is that the wolf is very hungry and it is also very skinny and has nothing to eat, right? Now, there are different problems. Remember, another problem could be that it has no home, right? It's a wild wolf, so nobody's feeding it. Okay, so different things. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue reading. One night the wolf happened to fall in with a fine fat house dog who had wandered a little too far from home. The wolf would gladly have eaten him then and there, but the house dog looked strong enough to leave his marks should he try it. So the wolf spoke very humbly to the dog, complimenting him on his fine appearance. So friends, here we find another problem, right? So the wolf is so hungry that he wants to do what? Oh yeah, he wants to eat the dog, and he could have, right? But what's the problem that the wolf is facing right here? Well, that the dog is well fed and it is a little bit strong, right? So the wolf is a little bit afraid, hesitant, right? So there we have another problem, right? Just remember, we are looking for the different problems in the story. So let's continue reading, huh? You can be as well fed as I am if you want to, replied the dog. Leave the woods. There you live miserably. Why, you have to fight hard for every bite you get. Follow my example and you will get along beautifully. What must I do? Asked the wolf. Hardly anything, answered the house dog. Chase probably who carry canes, bark at beggars, and found on the people of the house. In return, you will get tidbits of every kind: chicken bones, choice bits of meat, sugar, cake, and much more besides. Not to speak of kind words and caresses. The wolf had such a beautiful vision of his coming happiness that he almost wept. But just then he noticed that the hair of the dog's neck was worn and the skin was chafed. "What is on your neck?" "Nothing at all," replied the dog. "What? Nothing? Oh, just a trifle. But please tell me." "Perhaps you see the mark of the collar to which my chain is fastened." "What, a chain?" cried the wolf. "Don't you walk wherever you please?" "Not always. But what's the difference?" replied the dog. "All the difference in the world. I don't care a rap for your fists. I wouldn't take all the tender young lambs in the world at that price." And away ran the wolf to the woods. So, friends, here we saw another problem, right? The other problem is that the wolf is not willing to give up his freedom for food. So there we have it. So let's go back to our graphic organizer and put all of this information together. Now let's go ahead and complete our story map. Okay? This is what you are going to be doing on your own once you complete your own story. Okay, but this one we will do together. So, first things first, we need to write the title of our story. Okay, very important. Next, remember that we were talking about the characters, and who are the characters in the story? Yep, the wolf and the house dog. Very good. The next thing that we need to always identify is the setting. Remember that the setting affects the problem. Yes. So, what is the setting of the story? Very good. Yes, outside the village. That's right. And now let's go back to our main problem. Remember that as we discussed during our reading, there are several problems, but the main problem in the story is that the wolf is hungry. The wolf is actually dying of hunger. That's right. So here we have it. Now, friends, it is your turn to practice. That's right. So you have your own story map ready for you to complete after you read the story titled Mathematics. That's right. So we are not going to read the story together, but you have it and I want you to read it. It's a very nice story and it's not that long, so you're going to do just fine. So when you finish reading the story, I want you to upload or download the story map that is there for you. Okay, remember to write the title, identify the characters, identify the setting, and let me know what is the main problem in the story. Remember that the problem is not always doesn't have to be an actual problem. It has to be just a situation that needs to be worked out, right? Okay, friends, I want to thank you for your attention. We have arrived at the end of another lesson. Thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.